All right, so now we have completed the cylinder and the cone. Both on these, remember we measured 1/4 of an inch up and 1/4 of an inch down and then created the ellipse. If you were to look at a cylinder straight on, remember you would see the full circle, but then when you turn it to the side, you see an angled version of that. And then once again, 1/4 of an inch down. This swooping motion mimics this swooping motion. And then this one is the same, just upside down. And then it would be the same as the one on the back side, but since this is an opaque object, we don't see through it. If it was a glass cylinder, like a cup that you would drink at a restaurant, then you would see it. But in this case, you're not going to see it, so you don't need to draw it. And then the same thing goes for the cone. We went 1/2 an inch down, created that ellipse, which is the same as this one, just because that's what we're doing. All right, now we're going to work on the circle, which will become the sphere, and the square, which will become the cube. All right, we are going to use a compass for the circle. Remember, we found that crosshair middle point. We found exactly the middle of the square left to right and up and down. So that is going to be where we put the needle point of our compass. Our compass has the needle point and the pencil. Pencil needs to be obviously on the outside, so then we can draw the circle. All right, what the area here is a rectangle, so therefore we are going to utilize the left and right hand side because that's the shorter side. If we did top and bottom side, our circle would go outside of the constrained area, so we want to keep it within the constraints. So notice how it doesn't touch the top here or the bottom here. It only touches the left and right side to get a perfect circle. So I'm going to put my needle point directly in the middle there. I'm going to line it up with one side, either the left or right hand side. It doesn't matter because they're both equidistant from each other from the middle. And then I am going to rotate my compass. I'm going to swap out my pencil. You do not need to do this. I'm swapping out the pencil so you can see it, so it's darker because of the screen. Once again, as always, we are pressing lightly to ensure that we do not see any of this, any of these outlines. Outlines flatten our objects, and we do not want to outline our objects and flatten them because we need them to develop form. And anytime you outline, think of like a cartoon, those are not three-dimensional and realistic, as you would see in real life. All right. So now I have my sphere using the compass, or my circle that we will turn into a sphere. Oh my gosh! What I just did. It's all your fault. Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing.
Why did you put yourself so hard?
Wait, that's all right.
Trying my hardest.
All right, next we need to create our square into a cube. So in order to do that, we need to showcase the 3 sides of it. So a lot of us have, in the past, kind of drawn a square, and then you draw, you're like, oh, do my corners, and then connect that. So that's what we need to create. Okay, some of you do the whole double box thing, and then connect all the corners, which is great and all, but we don't want to see the inside stuff because once again, our object is opaque and we won't see the back side of the cube. Just like our cylinder where we did the ellipse on the top and the bottom, technically there's an ellipse on the back side, but we wouldn't see that because it is opaque. So in order to create a perfect cube of what we're trying to achieve, we need to create a vanishing point. So if you remember 1-point perspective, which we will investigate later in this semester, 1-point perspective, everything goes to that 1 point. So we're going to go directly above this line here that is the creation of our cone and go as high up on the paper as we can. Okay, so create a little dot. Make sure you are pressing lightly because this dot will be completely erased. You do not see the dot on the final product. Okay, just a very faint dot so you know how to get there. And now we are going to take our ruler and you're going to connect the three sides that are not overlapped by the main object itself. So I'm going to go from this corner to the dot, this corner to the dot, and this corner to the dot, pressing lightly because we don't know where the end of our cube is quite yet. There is also one more corner. This would technically go to the dot as well if our cube was clear or made of glass or made of clear plastic, but that is not the case for what we're trying to achieve today. So you have your dot. You are taking the corner to the dot. Okay, so corner of the cube, which I'm at right here right now, and I'm lining that up with my vanishing point. And I'm pressing lightly because I don't know quite yet where the end of my cube is, but I will figure that out when I get all my angles on there. Okay, then I'm taking my next corner of my cube to the dot or the vanishing point. And then I'm taking the very bottom right corner to the vanishing point as well. So that is 1 point perspective. Now, if our cube went on forever, we would leave it like that. But we want to chop it off and make it just a box within the space that we have. Okay, so what I'm going to do is line my ruler up with the angle I have. And we want to make sure these are parallel with one another. Okay, so here's the line I already have. I'm going to line my ruler up with that line perfectly. And I'm going to try my best to keep it straight and just shift straight up a little bit. And then I'm going to connect that angled portion right here and the angled portion right here. The middle line that's going to the vanishing point to the outside line. And that's going to give me the top of my cube. Okay. Then you're going to line your ruler up once again parallel with the other line that we have vertically. So we just did the horizontal line. Now we're doing the vertical line. Line that up perfectly. And now you're going to go to that new point or intersection that you just created with the previous line. So we're going to find the corner of the backside of our cube right here. So I'm lining my ruler up perfectly in line with my previous line, shifting straight over until I get to that new intersecting point, and now I have the right side of my cube. Okay, now we have all of our objects drawn, and now we can erase all the things that we don't need anymore. So that includes on our cube that we just drew, we had to take our lines to the vanishing point all the way because we didn't know where the starting and stopping point was located quite yet. So I can erase the vanishing point. I can erase the extra line that went to the vanishing point. And then I will be left with the cube. Okay. Now, all the black lines on here are what you're going to erase entirely. Okay, so that includes the black lines around the circle, which will become the sphere. That includes the vertical line here that separated the space for the cylinder. That includes the other side of the cylinder spacing area and the horizontal line that is connecting the cylinder and cube at the moment. Okay. We do not erase the two lines or the four lines, the two verticals and the two horizontals of the black line because that created our cube, so we can leave those. but we do want to get rid of this little intersecting line right here because that is not part of the cube, just that little horizontal bit right there. Okay, the bottom part here that is connecting our cube to the cone. The vertical line that separated the space for our cone, the area above our cone, and the far right line with the border. With these objects, we want to ground them. We don't want them floating in space. So the next thing we're going to do is create a horizon line. A horizon line is where the sky meets the ground. We're going to put shadows under our objects, and therefore that will ground them and put them physically on something. So we are going to use our ruler, and we're going to draw a line that goes through every single object, but you're going to skip every time the object occurs because you wouldn't see the horizon line through something that's opaque. So if you're looking at a city, you don't see, say, a city on the water, you don't see the water that's behind the buildings because you can't see through the buildings, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to line my ruler up somewhere towards the upper section of my objects. I am going to create my horizon line. So the sky is going to be above and the ground is going to be below. So what we're going to do is draw a line at the very edge of the paper, stop when we intersect with any shape. So I'm stopping at the sphere right now, skipping, starting again at the other side of the sphere, going through, stopping at the left side of the cylinder, starting at the right cylinder, left cube, right cube, left cone, right cone to the edge of the paper. Now you have created a horizon line, and that will help us with when we add our shadows, make it look like it's physically sitting on the ground.